Hello everybody and welcome back to the 10th episode of Tides of Lore. My name is Robert Silva and I am one half of your host team today, joined as always by my good friend Tim. How you doing today, Tim?
Really good, man, except for this negative degree weather that I have right now. But really good, still playing Classic. Dude, got an insane drop yesterday. Did LBRS, which is Lower Blackrock Spire, and it's a dungeon, and a 0.96% chance of this ring dropped, and it's a purple ring, dude. It's crazy for my healer. I use it. It's a 30-minute cooldown, but it gives me a shield, and that shield lasts 30 minutes or until that shield goes away, and it of course absorbs damage, but it gives me 22 mana per 5 seconds while that shield is active. So I've been just playing around with it, seeing how to use it in dungeons, like use it in the beginning of the dungeon right away while I'm waiting for people to get that cooldown rolling. Then I swap out to a different ring when it's not in use. But crazy drop, dude.
Yeah, usually when I see like rings or trinkets and stuff that have that 30-minute cooldown, I'm like, yeah, it's cool, but it only has like kind of a negligible effect for a very short period of time. But considering that it stays up as long as the shield is up, that's crazy.
Yeah, well, you just gotta not get hit. And then I swap out to a different ring, so I have like backup rings, But crazy drop. First time running that dungeon too, ever. Well, not ever, but on this character. Yeah. And it dropped. So I was ecstatic. How you doing though, big dog?
Pretty good. As you guys might have heard in the last episode, I was plagued with a pretty severe illness, but I am finally getting over that and feeling a lot better. So I'm also... And with Battlegrounds going live, despite the major debacle that you told me about with Blizzard, I've been able to enjoy the open world of Classic once again, and I've been getting some levels down as well.
Yeah, it's not that bad. I mean, there's some assholes still out there, but for the most part, the Horde is pretty tame right now.
I can handle one or two guys that are like, let's PvP, that's fine. It's when I'm getting run up on by an entire kill squad that I'm like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
In my own major city.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
But yeah, that's what I've been up to, and been playing a lot of other games in the meantime as well.
Oh, yeah, what have you been playing?
Playing this kind of survival game with our buddy JoJo, where we terraform a planet. We've also been playing some Marvel Rivals with Bub, though I think I'm putting that game away because it just turns me into a terrible person.
Oh yeah, the game does that, huh?
It does that, yeah. It turns me from a person who enjoys playing video games and hanging out with my fellow gamers to a person who's like, why are you behind 1,700 walls and spamming I need healing? I can't, this isn't, Do
you yell at your friends?
Bub yells at me.
He said that very, I think you have some trauma going on or something.
Yeah. Just, I don't think competitive games I'm not a youngin' anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, last episode we spoke about the Blood Elves and the forming of the Sinduri, and just kind of their story that led from the War of the Ancients trilogy up to what is going to be the Burning Crusade expansion, as well as there's a little bit of story that they have in Warcraft III. What do you remember about that episode?
We talked about them finding their footing in the world, a fight with the Amani trolls, and how humans learned magic. It was because it was taught to them by the elves, because they needed backup. There was a lot of trolls that needed killed. Talked about like the forming of the Blood Knights, which is, I'm a Blood Elf main paladin. Like that's my bread and butter. So that was cool learning about the Blood Knights and the Sunwell. We talked about, the power of the Sunwell and how it got corrupted eventually by Arthas and its part to play in Azeroth.
Yes, indeed. It getting blown up by Kael'thas and some of their mages, and I guess the long-term effects that has on their people, as well as that the Sunwell may not be completely gone. But it was a fairly short episode, but definitely important info, like I said, leading into this first expansion of World of Warcraft once we get through some of these classic storylines. But yeah. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about the remainder of Warcraft 3's story with the Night Elves, as well as their story in the Frozen Throne expansion, and how they're story also plays into the Burning Crusade when we get there. Before we dive into today's story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to Tides of Lore on YouTube, or if you're on Spotify, leave us a 5-star rating. It really helps the channel, ensures you won't miss a moment of this adventure. Now let's get started. Starting off with the Warcraft III campaign for the Night Elves and the Sentinels, and move into some Illidan Stormrage as we get further down here. So.
Illidan's like a love-hate. You either love him or you hate him, you know?
And I'll be honest with you, bro, as I've been reading up on his story and whatnot, I'm like, I hate this guy.
Really? Because most people think he's pretty badass, at least now, right?
Mm-hmm.
I will not be controlled or something like that, right?
I have my scars.
Breaks out of that, like, the light hold. Like, there was a...
See, and I think that the Legion stuff that they do with him is really cool. And that's when he actually feels like an anti-hero or whatever you want. In this story, he's a villain. And we're going to kind of get into why he's just a straight-up villain for the Burning Crusade expansion.
So I think we called upon him because we're like, hey, who knows how to kill demons better than Illidan? So, like, it's kind of like, you know, you break that guy out of prison because they're going to help you with some good cause for humanity, right? You know?
And that's kind of the whole plot of this episode of was freeing Illidan and unleashing all of this chaos upon Azeroth and further beyond worth it in the grand scheme of it all. And I guess you'll be able to make that decision for yourself by the time we do come to Legion and whatnot. But starting off, we have Tyrande Whisperwind and Chandra's Feathermoon. Like we mentioned back in the War of the Ancients, Tyrande is the leader of the Night Elves as the High Priestess of Elune, alongside her lover, husband, whatever you want to call him, Malfurion, who for the last 1,000 years leading up to Warcraft III has been taking a fat nap.
Not doing much, huh?
As they do. I mean, he's been walking through the Emerald Dream, but 1,000 years, my guy? Really? Okay. All right.
Is he, like, learning stuff? Is he becoming more powerful? Like,
to kind of indicate that he's teaching the other druids there, because during this first little story for Warcraft 3, it's not just Tyrande's goal to wake up Malfurion, but to wake up all these other druids who are also resting in the Emerald Dream. But he does mention that he's like, yeah, I've been conscious for all 1,000 of it inside the Emerald Dream.
Are druids the laziest class?
I don't know if I would call them lazy, but certainly they are. I think they're mostly misunderstood. I don't necessarily know why they need to be in the Emerald Dream so much, but certainly from an outside perspective where you're walking through Darnassus, you're like, why are all these dudes sleeping?
Right? Taking cat naps.
Get up. So yeah, we have Tyrande Whisperwind as well as her and Malfurion's adopted daughter, Chandra's Feathermoon, who they met back during the War of the Ancients. And just to briefly touch on her, she was just like a casualty of war. Her parents had died, and that's kind of where Tyrande and Malfurion are like, yeah, you could be our kid. You're a cool kid. They are here during the opening of the Legion's second invasion upon Azeroth. And upon this second invasion of Azeroth, they're like, ooh, Archimonde's back. There are infernals falling from the sky like you'll see in the Warcraft III opening cinematic. So Tyrande, decides that it is time to go wake up Malfurion. And that is that first goal, like I mentioned, that they go through with during Warcraft 3. So her goal is to reach the Moonglade, kind of fight through Fellwood, as well as these other corrupted forests that have been kind of overcome by demonic energies, and use the Horn of Cenarius, because before, Cenarius used to just be able to wake up the druids and be like, come on, guys, chop, chop, time to get up. But as we mentioned, Cenarius is dead. Crom Hellscream plunged Gorehowl into that boy's chest, and he is no longer on this plane of existence. He is chilling out in Ardenweald.
Was Malfurion pretty pissed about that?
He's actually surprisingly okay with it, because just, I guess, keep moving the story along. Tyrande does eventually reach the Moonglade. She acquires the Horn of Cenarius, and as she wakes these druids, she tells him, like, yeah, the invaders for our land killed your mentor Cenarius, and he's like, ooh, this is tough news. Anyway, and that's really kind of it.
I would think he would take that a lot harder. Like he would like go on a purge of all orcs or something, man.
I guess not. They do know that they have slain the demon Manaroth, so that they are kind of breaking free from the corruption that even caused them to do this. But yeah, he seems to be pretty unbothered by all of it. And with that, Tyrande and Malfurion begin to use their combined druidic and priestess powers to fight the Legion. But there does come a time where they're at the base of Mount Hyjal, and they come across the Burrows, which is the prison that is underneath Mount Hyjal. And that is when Tyrande's like, you know who might actually really help us out during this war with the Legion again? Your twin brother, Illidan, who's been in that cage for 10,000 years. Yeah, he's pretty good at killing demons. Let's get him. And Malfurion's like, that's a terrible idea. But regardless, Tyrande's like, we'll take any chance that we can get. Something that seems a bit odd is that we did mention that Illidan has a jailer who watches over him, a warden by the name of Maiev Shadowsong. And while she makes it her whole identity to keep this dude in prison, she's not actually at the prison when the time comes that Tyrande decides to let him out. I don't know what she's doing or whatnot, but basically they let Illidan out, and he gets his warglaves, and they're like, go on, accomplish great things, go slay demons. And I guess because Illidan, he does hate the Night Elves, but he hates the Legion more. He's just like, okay, anything for you, Tyrande.
Well, he's also in love with Tyrande still, huh?
Absolutely. And it's kind of, I think that is the logic, is that there is only one thing that Illidan won't risk corrupting, and that is like allowing Tyrande to die or be overtaken by the Legion. So that is his logic in moving forward. So that's when you have Illidan Stormrage going into Felwood, which you can still kind of see this quest if you play through the Felwood zone, where you'll see Illidan, or at least you'll see specters of them, fighting with the Death Knight Arthas. And they duel. It says that they could do this all day, basically. That one Captain America meme, I could do this all day. And eventually they're like, yeah, we're not getting anywhere with this fight. And that's when Arthas makes his play to undo the Legion in his own way. And he's like, if you want to get more powerful, maybe even more powerful than I am, you could go get that Skull of Gul'dan. Like I mentioned, it's in the possession of that Dreadlord, Tichondrius. So Illidan's like, bet.
Is this pre-transformation Illidan then? Because
yes, I mean, like
okay.
like we said, he still kind of has some fell tattoos. He's missing the eyes, but no bat wings, no horns. No,
Gotcha.
And he goes, and he finds the Skull of Gul'dan, and he's like, wow, this thing is absolutely overflowing with fell energy. I like that. And he consumes it. It's magical energy. And that's when Tichondrius shows up, and he's like, hey, that was my magical artifact. I was using that to fuck up Felwood. And he's like, that's great and all, but now we're going to fight. And he just walks the floor with this Dreadlord, and he murders the shit out of him. At which point, Tyrande and Malfurion catch up with him, and they see this now super demonically corrupted, with all the horns, with the wings and all of that, Illidan Stormrage. And Tyrande's just like, what have you become? Oh man, I might have made a really big mistake. And Malfurion is pissed. He's like, get the fuck out of our lands. And he banishes him from Kalimdor. I think he says he banishes him from all of Azeroth, but I mean, they only rule over Kalimdor, so.
So even though Illidan defeated Tichondrius, they didn't care about that. Even though, that's their woods, that's the Night Elf area. Like, that probably Illidan just saved.
Yeah, Malfurion says he's like, Illidan's a danger to himself, and with this much thirst for power, we have no certainty that he won't just eventually turn on us as well. So he basically is like, you're no brother of mine, get out of here.
Can't be trusted.
Yeah, and Illidan's just like, fine, be that way, brother. And he leaves. He goes to go do some other stuff, at which point it says 2 days later in the Warcraft 3 campaign that Malfurion and Tyrande are inside this cave. And Tyrande's like, what are we doing here? And Malfurion's like, a raven came to me in my dream last night, and he told me to meet some people here, so we're waiting. And that's when Thrall shows up. And that's when Jaina Proudmoore shows up. And at first, Tyrande's like, get the fuck out of here. But Maiev also shows up and is like, now, let's all calm down. As you have seen, there are demons about, and we're all going to need to work together here if we want any hope of defeating the Legion this time. And reluctantly, Malfurion and Tyrande are like, okay, if you guys are going to help us save Nordrassil, then I guess we will trust you for now. And yeah, that's their next course of action. They know that Archimonde is going for the powers of the World Tree that the Night Elves draw their ancient power from, and they begin to set a trap for him. So as all the orcs and all the humans and all the Night Elves do everything that they can to stall Archimonde and the Legion for as long as possible, Malfurion begins to set a trap for Archimonde. Basically, it's a real long holdout mission during the game, and then as it comes to its end, Malfurion's like, all right, we're all set to go. And by calling upon the spirits of the forest, as well as sacrificing the sacred energy of the tree itself, he blows Archimonde up. Like, Archimonde reaches the tree. You can see this at the end of the Warcraft 3's main campaign. He's like, yes, the power's mine. He's like, wait, what are all these bugs flying around me?
Isn't it the wisps?
They are wisps. Yeah, they're spirits of the forest. And they just like thousands and thousands of them wrap around him, as well as, like it said, the energy from the tree itself. And then it's just a massive fiery explosion that scorches all of Mount Hyjal. And just what's funny is in the Warcraft 3 campaign, Archimonde is very clearly like blown up and absolutely like just gone. But you can see in World of Warcraft, when you do eventually get back to Mount Hyjal, like, his skeleton's still supposed to be there.
Right, I'm pretty sure you do see it, yeah.
His body's still there. Yeah. So that is a bit of a weird, maybe retcon, but regardless, with the united forces of all of these living creatures of Azeroth, they do manage to defeat Archimonde and stop the Second Legion invasion. And that's when we move into the Frozen Throne expansion, where you would play as Maiev Shadowsong. Again, I don't know where Maiev was prior to this, but following this, she's like, my only priority in life is to catch Illidan again. I will not let that guy get away. And that's what you do. You begin to chase Illidan towards the eastern coast of the lands of Kalimdor. I believe that they say it's supposedly in the area that Ajara would be, like the zone just above Orgrimmar.
Does Maiev hate Tyrande for doing this?
I mean, Maiev already kind of hated Tyrande because she was a bit jealous that Tyrande was named High Priestess when she thought she might be more of a fitting candidate. But yeah, she and you'll see that later down in this campaign as well. She's kind of not trusting of her, as well as willing to put her in some dangerous situations for that sake. Illidan is on the coastline of Kalimdor, and he, using some sort of magic, calls upon the Naga from the ocean. He summons them. This is like the opening to the campaign itself, but it just shows him standing there, and that's when you meet Lady Vashj, as well as the Naga, who have been sent by Ajara and the Old Gods with the intent of, well, the Old Gods love chaos, and they're always trying to get out of their prison some more. So if you guys are going to go do some more war and cause some more chaos, we'll help you out. And that's when Illidan comes into possession of his first like little army of the Naga. And that is where Maiev finds out about them. And they are kind of like, yeah, we used to be highborn too, and now we're not because we got cursed. But death to all you guys, because we still have not forgotten that you guys were the reason that all this shit got undone. And Illidan actually, while he claimed the Skull of Gul'dan, he gained all of Gul'dan's memories. So he learned about the location of the Tomb of Sargeras that Gul'dan had raised just before his death. And that's his next course of action. He's like, I'm going to go to the Tomb of Sargeras, I'm going to find some more artifacts, and we're going to actually just fuck this place up. So he sets sail. He goes to the Broken Isles, and Maiev is closely following behind them. And that is, Illidan finds the Tomb of Sargeras, and he goes inside, and he sees the remnants of the events of the Second War, as well as he finds, some demons and whatnot inside. But the main artifact that he comes into possession of is this artifact called the Eye of Sargeras. And with this eye, he has a plan to undo the Scourge threat. But that is when Maiev catches up with him. And Maev's like, back to your box, Illidan. I'm not going to play this game with you. And he's just like, yeah. And he uses the Eye of Sargeras to collapse part of the tomb on top of her. And just teleports out of there. And Maiev, with her other wardens, is now stuck in there. And she's like, shit, we're going to die in here. And somehow they managed to channel enough magical energy to teleport Maiev out of the tomb. But the rest of the wardens get stuck in there. And that's actually where you can find, like, if you do the Tomb of Sargeras raid from Legion, you'll find one of these banshees by the name of, like, Nelia or something like that. And she's basically just like, kill me. I've been in here for so long. And that was one of her wardens. That was her second in command that she had left there all those years back.
Interesting. I have a question about the Eye of Sargeras. What is it? Is it actually Sargeras' eye?
Definitely not. It's just a magical artifact that the Legion had created. It was actually one of those artifacts that Ner'zhul was trying to get when he was trying to reform the Horde in Outland and stuff like that, when he got the Book of Medivh, as well as the Skull of Gul'dan himself and whatnot. But it's never too clearly indicated. I think the lore just said it's an artifact that was crafted millennia ago by the Legion itself.
Interesting. And it just emanates power, or?
Yep, fell magic power, basically.
And when someone uses it, it just it empowers them.
It seems to be kind of like a focus. So like the way that you would use a wizard staff to cast a spell, it seems to be a way to channel more magical energy through whatever you're doing.
Okay.
So Maiev, now with a bunch of her wardens dead inside the Tomb of Sargeras for all she knows, she's like, I guess I should call for aid from Malfurion and Tyrande. She sends a call for them. And Malfurion and Tyrande hear about this in the Moonglade, and they go rushing to her. And upon their arrival, Malfurion summons mountain giants from the ocean and whatnot, and they walk Illidan's army of the Naga, and they eventually come back face to face with him. And they're like, yeah, it was a really bad idea to let you out. You're a villain. And he's just like, no matter where you run, I'm going to catch you. And Illidan is like, yeah, you guys don't understand. I have a greater plan. And he kind of manages to escape. And his plan now is to go to the destroyed city of Dalaran to use this Eye of Sargeras and shatter the world. Thank you for tuning into Tides of Lore. If you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your fellow adventurers. Your support makes all the difference. Thank you. So, as they go to the realm of the Eastern Kingdoms, just barely having been ravaged by the Scourge, Malfurion feels the energy of the earth itself begin to cry out in agony. And he goes to commune with it, and that's when Tyrande and Maiev come into contact with one Kael'thas Sunstrider. Oh, hey, this guy again. This is actually him when he was still working with the Alliance before he got imprisoned by Garithos. And he's just trying to run some supplies to his people. And Tyrande and Maiev agree to help him out in the hopes that he will also help them catch Illidan. So it just kind of comes to a point where they're being attacked by this Scourge army. And Tyrande's like, you guys go. I'll defend this position. And she's standing on a bridge as all of these undead come charging at her. And she's casting Starfall. And all these stars are just coming down, just smoking all of these undead, when one of the Starfalls hits the bridge that she's standing on, and she goes tumbling into the river below, and it separates the Scourge army from being able to get to the rest of them. But Maiev sees her get dragged downstream, and Kael'thas is like, we have to go help her. And Maev's like, no, let's just go after Illidan. And Kael'thas is just like, okay. And when Kael'thas and Maiev reach back up with Malfurion, Maiev actually tells Malfurion, oh yeah, Tyrande's dead. Tyrande died. I watched her get ripped apart by the Scourge with my very own eyes. And this is actually the time where you would see Malfurion get like super saddened and super like crushed by this information. And when he really sets his eyes on being like, this is Illidan's fault. So they go to the ruins of Dalaran, and they find out that Illidan is using the Eye of Sargeras to shatter Northrend. He is just casting this magical spell to completely destroy the continent of Northrend in hopes that it will prevent the Scourge from spreading any further, because that is where like the actual Lich King is at the moment. And that's when Malfurion catches up with him. With the help of Kael'thas, they undo Illidan's spell. And he's like, and they destroy the Eye of Sargeras. It just like crumbles. And he's like, you fool, do you have any idea what you've done? Tyrande's dead because of what you've just done. And that's when Kael'thas is like, well, we don't actually know that she's dead. She only fell into the river. She could have got dragged downstream. And that's when Maev's like, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up. And Malfurion then realizes, and he looks at Maiev, and he's like, you lied to me. And she's like, I only did it because I knew that if you knew Tyrande wasn't dead, that you would stop hunting Illidan when you know we need to catch Illidan the most. And he's like, you're right. So he undoes his entangling roots that he has on Illidan, and he wraps her up instead. And he's like, because that's exactly what we're going to go do right now. And this is still where you see Illidan is super loyal to Tyrande, because upon hearing about this, he's like, I'm a terrible person, but I promise you, I will help you to save Tyrande. And with the help of my Naga, we'll be able to reach her significantly faster. And it's said that she's dragged downstream into what I can only imagine is the Plague Lands, because they say it's like the heart of the Scourge territory. Mm-hmm. And they do. Illidan is the first one to find her, and she's holding out on the bank of this river. And he manages to reach her just in time before the Scourge overrun them. And he uses a spell to teleport Tyrande back to Malfurion. And at which point he's just like, yeah, I know that you guys still hate me, but at least you know that I'm not outright your enemy. And I would prefer, Malfurion, if we could just move on and be a bit cordial with each other. And reluctantly, Malfurion's like, yeah, that I do agree. Maybe we just put the end to this. And then Illidan's like, so I'm going to go to this other world. He actually uses the kind of Terran reality that Kael'thas used to summon Archimonde into the world. And he opens a portal to Outland, the former world of the orcs, Draenor, that has now been shattered and sent into the Twisting Nether. And as he goes through this portal with some of his soldiers and whatnot, Maiev shows back up. And she's like, you guys are fucking idiots. Don't let him get away. And Tyrande and Malfurion are like, no, he's trying to atone. Just leave him be. And she's like, I'm not doing that. And she rushes through the portal to Outland behind him. Mm. And that is where you kind of come into the events that lead up to the Burning Crusade expansion. So Illidan, now on Outland, sees this land that's been overrun by fell magic and demons. And he decides, I'm going to purge the demons from this realm, or I'm going to at very least use them to summon my own army to fight against the Legion. He says, like, I'm not just going to be one of those people waiting around for the Legion to come kill us.
Is Sargeras Outland?
Sargeras is not, but so the reason he's even so determined to stop Arthas and the Scourge is because when he does very first get like the Skull of Gul'dan and stuff, he's approached by Kil'jaeden. And Kil'jaeden's like, yeah, if you undo the Scourge, then we'll be cool. We won't have beef like that. He basically knows, having veered from his path of destroying the Scourge and helping Tyrande and them, that it might piss off Kil'jaeden. So he does begin to form his little army out here in Outland. And he is chased by Maiev, who actually does end up catching him. And she imprisons him for all of 5 seconds before Kael'thas and Lady Vashj show up, who, like we mentioned before, Kael'thas had just been imprisoned by Garithos, as well as the Alliance, and betrayed by them. And now he's looking for other allegiances, and with the aid of Vashj, he decides maybe Illidan's the guy. Maybe he's the one that will help me out to figure out how to stop my people from this mana addiction. So he frees Illidan, and they actually imprison Maiev on Outland. And that's when they turn their attention to the main demon threat, the guy that rules over Outland at this time, a pit lord by the name of Magtheridon. And he resides in this former temple city of Karabor, now known as the Black Temple. So Vashj, Kael'thas, Illidan, they begin to siege the Black Temple where Magtheridon's at, and he has all these portals summoning in all these demons. And that's when they come into contact with some of the remnants of the Draenei, the ones that had been disconnected from the light and now had kind of withered themselves, the broken. And mainly their leader, Akama, who sees that, this new figure has appeared and is trying to stop the demons and trying to make Outland a better place again. So he agrees to work for Illidan as well. So all 4 of these figures, they rush the Black Temple, they battle with Magtheridon, and they subdue him. After they subdue him, they take his body and they imprison him under the Hellfire Citadel inside the Hellfire Peninsula, which is where you'll find him in the Burning Crusade raid.
Black Temple, is that a Draenei? Was that like a Draenei temple?
Yeah, it was the city of Karabor. We actually mentioned it in the very first episode. It's like the first... It's the city that the orcs kind of sack and destroy just before they go to Shatrath City and destroy that one.
Then Magtheridon reformed it.
Yep. I mean, it also kind of reforms itself with the fell energies and whatnot. It stops looking like a Draenei city and starts looking all like a raid.
Right.
Yeah. So now Illidan is kind of ruling over Outland in a way, and Kil'jaeden shows up to him again, and he's like, I didn't tell you to come here. I told you to kill the Scourge, and I'm giving you one final chance to go kill the Scourge, or we're going to have problems. So Illidan, kind of scratching his head, is like, we're not ready to face the Legion yet. So he's like, okay, fine, Kil'jaeden, I'll do this. And he teleports him and his smaller army that he has now to go to Icecrown Citadel and face Arthas. I mean, he doesn't know that he's going to face Arthas. He thinks he's just going to hit the Frozen Throne for now. But like we mentioned, as they arrive in Icecrown, they begin fighting with the Nerubians, who are under the control of the Lich King. And eventually Arthas does show up and fights with Kael'thas and lays him out, and fights with Illidan and lays him out. And then he unites with the Helm of Domination, at which point Illidan, basically on death's doorstep, gets dragged back to Outland by Kael'thas and Vashj, and he knows that he's failed. And with that being the case, that the Legion will be coming for him as well. So he's like, all right, guys, I don't know how long it's going to be, but we're going to need to start prepping. So that's when he goes to work on more soldiers for his army that he's going to create. And that's when he creates this version of fell orcs. Because on Draenor, there's still these orcs that have like this purely red skin and are completely overtaken by fell corruption. And he imprisons some of them in the Black Temple and begins to experiment on them by giving them the blood of Magtheridon. And that's actually through this ritual where they get the dire orcs. If you've ever seen them, they're just like these super huge buff orcs and completely red skinned. And he's like, ooh, these guys are great. I can use these guys as excellent cannon fodder. But I'm going to need an elite guard. So certain outcasts of the Night Elves, as well as the Blood Elves, kind of come into his service. And he's like, if you guys want any chance of fighting the demons, you got to be like me. So he begins to train them to be demon hunters. This is where he creates the Illidari. And he, through a pretty brutal process where they have to hunt down a demon and then eat the heart of the demon and then spend like however many days trying to battle this demon within themselves, they eventually will gouge out their own eyes and go into a coma. But if they survive this like ritual process, they will be awoken as demon hunters. And that's where you'll see this in the Illidan Harbingers trailer that you can see that led just prior to the Legion expansion. And with this new elite guard that he has, he's like, all right, we're going to make some other plays here on Outland. Specifically, he sends Lady Vashj to the Zanger Marsh to begin to drain any remaining water off the planet. Because his plan basically is, I'm going to put all this water into the Coilfang Reservoir, and if I control all the water, everyone on Outland has to serve me if they want any hope of not
gosh.
dying.
That is some like actual villainous behavior.
Yeah. So, yeah, and that's why the Zanger Marsh is the way that it is once you'll reach the Burning Crusade.
Right, yeah, the Coilfang Reserve. That's you see all these pipes and stuff. And I never quite understood like why it was there, but he's literally trying to control the water supply, huh?
Yep.
I'm surprised people like Illidan. He pissed off the Night Elves. He pissed off the Scourge. He pissed off the Legion. Like he's trying to control Outland. Like who likes him?
I do agree, actually. And I'm surprised because I feel like a lot of people don't like Maiev, even though Maiev kind of is a more empathetic character in my mindset. Yeah. It's a bit odd, but I think they just think he looks cool. And in all fairness, as a demon hunter made cool. myself in retail,
he does.
Cool. He's yeah. So he, with control of this, Akama begins to get uneasy. He's like, I thought you would be better for Outland, but you're doing demonic rituals in the Black Temple, and you're draining the water supply, and I might have made a mistake supporting you. So he actually goes and he frees Maiev from her prison, which Illidan finds out about. And Illidan is like, okay, you're actually still useful though, so I'm going to split your soul in half and bind it to me, basically to my service. And that's where you get the two versions of Akama, where you get the regular version and the shade of Akama. And this is where you'll see the remainder of that cinematic that I was talking about, the Harbingers Illidan, where him and all his Illidari charge through this portal, and they just destroy a bunch of Doomguard on the way in, and they come face to face with another pit lord by the name of Asgoth. And I mean, just to put it plainly, they kill him. And that's when Illidan kind of gives his speech where he's like, the difference between us and the demons is that they'll do anything to destroy the world while we'll sacrifice anything to save it.
So does he really think saving the world for everything that he has done?
It seems like that's the way that the Blizzard was trying to rewrite it, but yeah, it is still all pretty terrible stuff. But regardless, they do kind of successfully manage to do this first hit on a Legion world where they destroy this pit lord and they destroy his stronghold and they retreat back through to Outland. And with this, he uses the Shade of Akama to ambush Maiev once again. Maev's been kind of building up this army of her remaining soldiers that are on Outland, and obviously still looking to hunt down Illidan. And that's when, during this ambush where Akama's like, yeah, meet us over here, Illidan and all his Illidari show up with the Broken, and they fight with the Wardens and Maiev, and they slaughter them. The only one that survives is Maiev herself. And using the souls, the fell energy of both the the Broken who had died, as well as the deaths of the Wardens. He tears a hole in reality, kind of like the Black Portal, to another of the Legion's planets, a world that's actually called Nathressa, which is the homeworld of the Nathrezim, the Dreadlords like Mal'Ganis and Tichondrius. And going through this portal, him and the Illidari, I mean, his elite force, I think they say in the book that he has 500 of them at this point. They assault this homeworld of the Legion, well, part of the Legion, and because the Dreadlords are like the schemers of the Legion, they're kind of like the brains in a way. So he's looking for their library in the hopes of locating information about where the Legion come from, the homeworld of Argus. And he finds it. And as he does find it, he destroys the remaining archives. And as they're once again kind of retreating back to Outland, he gets to the other side once all of his Illidari are on the other side, and he severs the connection of that portal. And he actually does it in a way that similar to how when the dark portal gets closed on Outland, that it just explodes and lets off this fell energy, and it just shatters the world that the Nathrezim come from. It just completely blows it up like Outland does. And it's said that this is the greatest blow to the Legion in a millennia.
You think Sargeras would fucking do some shit now? Like, Sargeras himself, though, I feel like would... Like, because Sargeras is huge, right? He could destroy Illidan with a one smack.
I think at this time he's technically still kind of like regaining his essence after he had lost to Aeduin like 800 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he destroys the homeworld of the Nathrezim, and now he is on Outland beginning to prepare to face the Legion even further, because now Kil'jaeden does know that he's doing this plot, and he's also expecting eventually the people of Azeroth to show up for him. That is kind of where it gets left off, leading to the events of World of Warcraft, as well as just leading up to the Burning Crusade expansion. You have Illidan now kind of ruling over as the Lord of Outland from the Black Temple, and he knows that Kil'jaeden is plotting to come and get him for failing to kill Arthas. And you have Maiev, who is once again been imprisoned by Illidan in the Black Temple. Surprisingly, Maiev is being watched over once again by Akama. I don't know why he would trust that, but in all fairness, the lore during Burning Crusade is kind of weak. But that is where they're at. Kael'thas heads to the shattered realm of Netherstorm to look for magical sources so that he can feed his people, which, like we mentioned in the last episode, is where he'll find Naru and send at least one of them back through the portal to be drained by his people, forming the Blood Knights with Liadrin and stuff like that. You have Lady Vashj in the Zanger Marsh, still watching over the Coilfang Reservoir, draining the waters, and that is all that leads up to the events of World of Warcraft, and we will check back in with all of them when we, as the heroes of Azeroth, charge through the Dark Portal ourselves and go to face Illidan ourselves as well. I should mention that the reason that we even go through the Dark Portal is that Kil'jaeden kind of baits us. He sends demons through the portal in the hopes to spur on the heroes of Azeroth so that we will kill Illidan for him. And in all fairness, I mean, we kind of do, right?
Well, we go to the Black Temple, we go up top, we defeat Illidan, but Maiev imprisons him again, right?
Yeah.
My question is, what kind of prison is it? Is this a Guantanamo Bay setting? Like, what are we working with?
Well, when they recapture Illidan, she puts him in like the crystal, right? Until the events of Legion, where Gul'dan will find him. Well, alternate Gul'dan will find him.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, that is the story of the Night Elves that leads up to Warcraft. I could mention that Tyrande and Malfurion, as soon as Illidan and Maiev disappear through the portal, they're like, Yeah, that's a problem for somebody else, or at least for another time. We'll go take a break, and that's when they go to form their new city or their new world tree of Teldrassil, leading to the beginning of World of Warcraft, where you'll play as a night elf.
Did we leave Outland just to like kind of rot? Like, cause we killed Illidan. I remember that. We killed Kael'thas. I remember that as well. What about the Naga lady? What's her name again? The sea witch?
Vashj.
Lady Vashj. Did we kill her?
She was the second raid, the first raid.
I think we did. We did kill her. Yeah.
If you remember, she had that poison fight where she just leaves poison all along the ground and whatnot. She actually has like the bow as well.
So did we liberate Outland?
Yes, to an extent. Something else that they also mention is that he manages to get Gruul under his control, the Gron that lives in the Fire Mountains, which doesn't make any sense to me, because if you remember the very first episode of Tides of Lore, we talked about how the Gron were too stupid to be bartered with or too stupid to be worked with. But I guess Gruul has a bit more foresight than the rest of them.
Maybe. Interesting.
And yeah. Next episodes, we'll probably be talking about some of the races on Azeroth that you can play as. Like, we might get into some of the Forsaken stuff, as well as maybe some of the dwarves or whatnot, because we do kind of need to talk about the dwarves, because the next major threat that we're looking at on Azeroth is the elementals, Ragnaros, the Blackrock Mountain, and Molten Core.
Ooh.
So
I was looking into the lore of the Blackrock Mountain. It's such a fun area, man. There's so many raids. There's so many dungeons in Blackrock Mountain. I didn't really think about it until I've been heavily playing it recently. But you have LBRS, UBRS, BRD. You have what's the raid that comes out?
Molten Core.
No, well, Molten Core, and there's another one where you go in and you fight that huge dragon at that.
Oh yeah, and Blackwing Lair.
Yeah. There's just, and then they redid it in Cataclysm. There's so much, and it's so cool. You have the orcs that live in the mountains, the dwarves that live in the mountains, the experiments of the dragons. It's so fun.
I actually think that Blackrock Mountain, in terms of lore, as well as like its history and everything, is the most fascinating part of like the old world in Warcraft, just because like you said, there's so much going on. There's so much like what I would consider rich lore, from old gods to dark iron dwarves, as well as all of that, the dragons who show up. It's a super cool place, and it's absolutely iconic. I mean, that's literally where you'll get the Leroy Jenkins charge.
Yeah, they even redid a quest in the new Blackrock raid that came out in Cataclysm, which I didn't even know.
Do you have the Jenkins title?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I remember getting that just before they removed it. So.
Oh, I didn't know they removed it.
Yeah, I believe they did. I could be wrong. I think they might have given it to everybody, but I do remember doing that. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this episode. Your guys' support truly means the world to us. If you're interested in hearing more, we have our full show on YouTube and Spotify, new episodes dropping every Tuesday. I also want to take this moment to give a special thank you to Fantasy Lo-Fi for providing the music for this episode. You can find them on YouTube at Fantasy Lo-Fi or on Spotify under Bits and Hits. Be sure to show them some love, as their music does truly bring this journey to life. Once again, thank you for joining us on Tides of Lore, and we will see you next week.